I'm going to talk a little bit about events in the recent past and maybe some events of the near future. But tonight's meditation is called Partnering with Your Practice. And this is the topic because I did not have an idea this morning of what I was going to talk about, so I asked Miss Zelda, one of our staff members, and she said, I got this idea that I want you to talk about, and so here we are, I'm going to talk about it. The idea of partnering with your practice came about because I wrote the last article in the blog and the newsletter about partnering in general, but we did a meditation talk about that just a couple of months ago, so I don't want to rehash the same exact stuff. But I will talk about some general concepts about what it is to be a great partner and using your practice as a partner. She brought this up, Zelda did, because we're going on a retreat this weekend, and a lot of people are coming on retreat, and some people are not coming on retreat. And I've been telling everybody to still practice on your own, because if you can only practice when you're in the dojo, that's a very small practice. I mean, I know the dojo is beautiful and expansive and really nice and all that stuff, but if your practice only lives here, and it does not live outside, that's a very small and quite frankly mostly useless practice. So you've got to practice wherever you are, however you can, and certainly be able to practice on your own. So I know this is a little bit bizarre, but I, for decades, have thought, like, I want to be able to practice and meditate and do forms and whatever else it is, even if I'm stuck on a deserted island by myself, I can still practice. Even if I'm in prison in solitary confinement, I can still practice, which means that I cannot have to have an app or music of any kind or a specific environment or a specific thing to sit on, and this on the one hand, kind of limits our options because we don't have all the tools and the toys that you might be used to. But it also is so expansive. It means you can practice under almost any circumstances. And I'll tell you, you haven't practiced until you have been stuck on an airplane for like 20 hours, and your only option is to sit there in your seat and find a way to meditate, or to find a way to, visualize yourself practicing in your head. And it really causes you to get creative and make things happen in a way that you're not used to, with all the comfortable stuff in the dojo. So partnering with your practice is your partner. It's there with you wherever you go. I heard this wonderful talk once by Sensei Kurt Sellers. He's another martial arts teacher. He's been practicing for like 25, 30 years when he gave this talk. He was talking about other kids, when he was growing up, had stamp collections. And they collect their stamps from different countries or states or whatever, and keep them all in a nice book, and so you can look at it and say, oh, this is my collection. Look at all these cool things that I've been collecting. His stamp collection was all the places that he traveled, and he would travel around the world, taking part in different martial arts competitions and tournaments. And whenever he would go there, he would practice his kata, his forms. And his stamp collection is his memories of all these places that he practiced forms. And I love that so much. When I went to China and when I went to Japan, one of the things that I made sure to do was to practice while I was there. And those memories are wonderful. I visited Shaolin Temple, and I didn't want any of the monks to see me doing my sloppy forms, so I went and found a place that was hidden back away from everybody else, and I did my forms real quick. And I was like, nobody's looking at me. I'll take my time with the next form, and I really enjoyed it. Practicing in Shaolin, very cool memory. Now, you might not have forms to practice. You might not have a physical practice at all. Maybe your meditation is your only practice. That does not limit. If anything, it gives you the option to be able to practice in many more circumstances. You don't have to have the space. All you got to be able to do is sit. So take it wherever you go. Some other ideas about this. Your practice is your partner, and you want to have consistency with it. So, just like you would have in a relationship, you want things to avoid as much of this as possible. You want things to be pretty steady. And so, when you can be consistent with your practice, it is really, it's uplifting you, right? Sometimes it feels like, let's say that you're meditating and you haven't done it in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It's like work to get yourself to sit. And maybe even if you have been practicing, but you've really been kind of fighting against your own practice. You're making it feel like a chore. This is what we want to be able to avoid in our practice. And simply thinking of your practice as your partner, whether it's your meditation practice or your physical practice, is huge. And when we talk about being a great partner, one of the notes that Zelda gave us, she's talking about practice not being transactional. And sometimes when you come to the dojo, it can feel like you're practicing and it's transactional. It's like, I'll give you this if you give me this. Like, I'll let you throw me if you let me throw you. And it shouldn't really feel like that. It should feel like you're just giving of yourself. Like you are very happy to just be there for your partner. And your practice should feel really the same way. If it feels like you are only going to practice as long as you can get something out of it, then that's only going to work as long as you're getting something out of it. And let me tell you, there will be days or weeks or months or maybe even years where it doesn't really feel like you're getting a lot, or you're not getting as much as you used to or as much as you want to. Because again, practice goes like this. So on these days, where the days that you want to meditate the least, these are the days where it's most important to meditate. And maybe it helps you get back out of your slump. And even if you are not getting anything out of it other than, I did it, I sat and meditated, that takes you out of this transactional feeling of like, I need to be getting something in return. My Sifu asked us once, if you knew that you were never going to get better, would you keep practicing? And of course, the politically correct answer is to say, of course I would. I'm a good martial artist. I'm a good meditator. I would meditate forever. But honestly, what if you're meditating for years and you're not getting any better and you feel like your meditations are bad and it's like, I'm not getting that same kind of, nice feeling or that same kind of focused practice that I was getting before? Would you keep going? Maybe. Maybe not. My Sifu gave us this way of thinking about our practice once, which really stuck with me. He said, first of all, if prayer is talking to God, think of meditation as like listening to God, and of course you should listen to God. And he said, what if there was a place you could go, a physical place, there's some mountain somewhere, and every single time you go there, God's going to talk to you. You would probably go. You'd probably go every single day, right? Now what if, not every time you go there, but like 1 in 10 times you go, roughly, God's going to talk to you. You would still go every single time. But what if God only talks to you once your whole life that you go there? Would you be like, I don't know if it's worth it to hear from God? You might make that decision, but you shouldn't. You should show up, right? And this is the way that some people think of their meditation practice, because it's like, sometimes it can feel like every meditation is just getting ready for that one time that you're really going to hear, or that one time that you're really going to do it. And some people say you really only meditate once. All the rest of that time is kind of leading up to, it's practicing. That's not personally what I believe. I believe that every time we can, be getting better in some way, or getting something from our practice, or giving something to our practice. But it's a very useful way of thinking of it, especially if you're feeling like skipping today. What if today is the day, the one day, the clouds part and the sun shines down on you, and it's like, oh, they did it. But you didn't show up that day because you were watching TV. What a disaster. So, It's kind of related to a question. I got this great question from one of the kids in class yesterday. She asked me, did you ever think about quitting martial arts? And the truth is, absolutely. But also the truth is, I have not thought about quitting in a very long time. So, of course, this is my job. It doesn't really feel like a job in the way that most people's jobs feel because it's just fun for me. But it is who I am. I wouldn't even feel like a human being if I couldn't show up and do this every day. And that makes it very easy for me to not have to think about quitting at all. But there were certainly times early in my practice where I thought about quitting. And I'll go out on a limb and say that very few people have ever thought more about quitting martial arts than me. It's just because I've been doing it for so long. I'm sure my Sifu thought about it even more than I have. But eventually, those thoughts don't come very often. And it's the same thing with your meditation practice. You're going to think about skipping meditation a lot. You're going to think about skipping class a lot in the beginning. But once you make it a part of who you are, and it is so ingrained in your habits, and it is just part of who you see yourself as, then it becomes effortless. So when I answered this question to the student, I was like, for me now, martial arts and meditation is not something that I have to think about. It's not something that I have to ask myself, am I going to do it? And it's like, for most people, if we flipped it, we're like, most people don't wake up and have to think about, am I going to rob a bank today? No, you just know that you're not a bank robber, so you're not going to rob a bank. Now, some people do think that, and those people are bank robbers. Or they're in such a bad situation in life that they have to actually consider, like, is this something that I should do today? And it's like, the difference between life and death. If you guys are sitting here today, or I would gather even just listening to the talk or watching on your cell phone, you don't have to rob a bank, you just sell your cell phone, it's worth a couple $100 at least. And therefore, it's not really something you have to seriously consider. This is how we want to get with our practice. If your practice really becomes your partner, you're not thinking in the same way that you're not, like, if you're married, you're not thinking every day, is it time for me to divorce this person? Now, some people do think that. That's not the way that you want to be in your marriage or in your relationship. If it's constantly a thing you're thinking, like, is today the day? No. You better do something to fix that relationship or make it the day, get out and find a better one. So, I want to talk a little bit more about just being a great partner in general in our practice and in our life. There was a grappling tournament here a couple weeks ago with the kids, and it was absolutely beautiful. I think the best one we've ever done. We haven't done that many of them, so it's not that hard to beat. But these kids were awesome with each other. I had kids, while they were grappling, going pretty hard, but still very safe, and yet in the beginning, before they would start their match, some kids looked over at the other kid and they'd be like, good luck. The kid was about to try to beat them. And then sometimes a kid loses and then congratulates the other person and was like, you were so awesome. Now, that, I'm sure sometimes, was just the kid doing what they think they're supposed to be doing, and I'm totally fine with that. Sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. But sometimes it was totally genuine. And that is beautiful. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you were genuinely happy for other people's success, even if it came at your own expense? Now, of course, there is a way that you can take that too far, and it's just like you just give up on everything and let people walk on over you. You don't want that, but within balance, right? You're really trying for that promotion and somebody else gets it, and instead of making you feel terrible about yourself, you can genuinely be happy about that other person, right? We see this all the time. I mean, LA, boy, there's a decent gap between the people at the very top and the people at the very bottom. And we don't even see the people at the very top. But the people who are close enough to the top that we can still see them driving around in their Lamborghinis, and we pass their giant mansions, depending on what neighborhood you're living in. And it can be pretty easy to look at these people and their fancy cars and their gorgeous houses and be like, I kind of hate you. You don't say it to them, but you think it in your mind, right? Now, that is one way to deal with it. And there are other ways. Another way to deal with it would be, wow, imagine what an amazing experience that would be to get to drive a Lamborghini down the street. I personally would not touch a Lamborghini. I'm sure I would break it in 5 seconds of trying to drive it, but I'm sure somebody else would really appreciate that. Looks cool, makes loud noises, awesome. Good for this person. That person worked hard and spent a lot of money on this car. I truly hope that they're appreciating it. So it's a different kind of attitude towards our partners. And in the dojo, we literally do not use the word opponent. We use the word partner. And part of that is semantics. It's like, of course, in this, we're practicing in jiu-jitsu in the last class. Like, you don't want to just give your partner the technique. You want to give them some resistance. You want to have some give and take, right? But it's like a conversation rather than an argument. I'm partnering with you and I'm trying to learn while helping you learn. I'm being challenged while challenging you. It's not just one partner just beating up on the other person, because that's not really helping anybody get better. So being a partner means that you are really able to see what that partner needs, and it means that you're able to give it to them to the best of your ability, right? It's the same thing in all of the partnerships in our life. If our partnership feels like it's me versus you, that's not partner, that's opponent. And if you walk around seeing everybody in the world as an opponent, you're going to have a very stressful, unhappy existence. Back to driving. If you're treating everybody on the freeway as your opponent, and I have been guilty of this myself, and you're constantly feeling like you're racing the person next to you, and it's like, I'm going to try to get there just a little bit faster than this person. And oftentimes that results in you cutting them off or them cutting you off, and that results in car accidents or at the very least traffic. Can you imagine a world, or at least a city, a version of LA, where everybody is driving as partners? Literally, we all get there faster. Every single person gets where they're going faster than if you were all trying to beat each other. Okay? And this is because we avoid all of that switching lanes and cutting each other off and car accidents and traffic and all that garbage, right? This is the dream, all those self-driving cars, they actually all just work together. We can be those self-driving cars that work together. We don't have to wait for technology to force it upon us. So, like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see on the freeway. When we think of people as partners, not as opponents, it changes the way that we experience them. And you could be grappling with somebody and they tap you, and that feels like, oh, they beat me. That's my opponent, they beat me. Or you can kind of, enjoy the great technique that they just got you with. You can recognize that if this person is your partner, they literally cannot do something that is bad for you. They can only help you. So even if my partner taps me 10 times in a row, that's still something that I can learn from. And I refuse to let them turn into an opponent, right? Even when you're dealing with somebody at work or at home, and it's somebody who is really thinking of you as an opponent, and they're trying to beat you in whatever way they're trying to beat you. They're trying to win this argument. If you refuse to fall into that cycle with them, and you only see them as a partner, this can only end well for you. It might not end well for them because they have the way that they're seeing it, but for you, you can always see this as a learning experience, as something to improve from. Now, I'm going to go as far out on a limb as I possibly can, and this is something that I don't really want to touch, but Israel. And this has been going on for a very long time. This recent attack, I'm not going to weigh in on my opinions and the politics and all that stuff, but lots of people dying. And I am not going to pretend that this is something that we can just wish away with helpful thinking and say, like, you should think of each other as partners. People have been doing that for a very long time. But let's imagine that we live in a world where everybody truly sees each other as partners. Okay? Now, there are very tough conversations that you might have to have with your partner. And when you're talking about, like, your people have been killing my people, and my people have been killing your people for centuries. And this is your land, but it's also my land, and all that stuff gets real sticky, of course, no question. But, partly luckily for us, we're not in that situation. And so we have the luxury of being able to have partner skills in a situation where it's not life or death. But I think that it is not that impossible to imagine and to try to put out there, to the best of our ability, this way of looking at even these really difficult situations in life and in the world. We can really see each other as partners. I'll tell you, there have been plenty of opportunities in my life, and I'm sure you've all felt the same, where this person has really just had it out for you from the get-go. This person has never done a single nice thing for you. They've only ever tried to beat you, to take what's yours, to whatever. And it is, of course, natural that you feel like this. You are butting heads with them. You are not partners. You are opponents with this person. Okay? That's natural. We're not practicing meditation and martial arts and all of our spiritual work for days and weeks and months and years and decades on end, so that we could do what already comes like very easy for us. Right? We're trying to go beyond that. We're trying to transcend our small selves, our normal way of being. And that might take you being a totally different person. And you don't necessarily start with the biggest, hardest conversations or conflicts in your life. You probably start with something a little bit easier, right? This person cuts you off on the freeway, and while your first response is, I'm going to cut them off again, if you take a beat and you realize that you, not that long ago, maybe it was earlier on this drive, cut somebody else off. And so you can see what's going on with this other person. And that can give you just enough of a pause to give that person a break, right? See them as a partner, recognize they're not having their best day. They're in a rush for something. Maybe there's somebody about to give birth in that car. I don't know. But it's excusable. It's understandable. So you start with that. You let go of that person cutting you off. It's like, all right, it's not that bad. Being a partner is kind of nice. It's kind of relaxing. I can actually enjoy my drive. Right? Then you get wherever you're going and somebody else does something that pisses you off. Your first instinct is to fight back, to butt heads, to do something else. But it's like, let me see if I can extend this. Let me see if I can treat this person as a partner. And it is possible to actually see and treat everybody in our life and in the world in this way. Sometimes it is excruciatingly difficult, almost impossible. But I think with enough practice, it can become the way that we actually are naturally treating each other. And when it comes time to meditate, and you've been treating everybody in your life and seeing everybody in your life as an opponent, that makes your meditation real rough. You sit there and all you have in your mind is all of this, I wish things had gone differently. Here's something that I have to clean up later on. Here's something that I really did not like, and you've got all this stuff stuck in your mind. Right? It's the opposite of what the Buddhists would call right living. And right living could mean a lot of different things, but on a very basic level, it's like when I sit there and all I've got is my own thoughts, am I fighting against myself, against my own thoughts? Or is life smooth enough that I can just let that go and be in the present? Now, of course, with more practice and meditation, it becomes easier to let go of even the hardest stuff to let go of. It becomes possible. But there's this brilliant combination of I'm very practiced at, very good at letting go of these thoughts and these attachments. And my day and my life has been going so well, even if it's just my perception and my way of choosing to see everybody as a partner. Things are so smooth that when I sit there, there's not a lot to let go of. There's not a lot to fight against. It just feels smooth and easy. So, we're going to sit and meditate, and when you sit and close your eyes and the thoughts start coming and you try to let them go, some of those thoughts will stick. And some of those that come back over and over and over again will be something that you need to deal with. Not right now. Right now you're just sitting and breathing. But maybe when class is over and you have a little bit of calm, you can go make that difficult phone call that you need to make. Right? Maybe there's something you need to go home and take care of. Maybe you got to go finish your homework assignment, whatever it is. And that's great because then you can let go of it. It's done. Right? Maybe when you sit, maybe you get a little bit more time between those thoughts because there's not that much for you to fight against. Because not only do the people in your life feel like partners, but your own meditation practice feels like your partner. There's nothing that your partner can do to harm you. Your partner can only help you. So when your meditation feels like, and all you're doing is thinking and stressing and having, anxiety, remember, that's your partner. It can do you no harm. It can only help you grow and become better. So then you can just kind of be with it. And when you are just accepting of it, and you realize this is something that is there to help you be better and grow, then it usually just disappears and you're left with a nice calm experience of your own thoughts and the breath. So, sit. Lots of different ways of sitting. I like to sit knees on because my hips don't cooperate very well with sitting cross-legged, but you can sit cross-legged as well. Just make sure that your knees are not sticking up too high above your hips, because then your legs will fall asleep when you do a longer meditation. We're going to do only 15 minutes tonight, so it's not going to be that crazy. Close eyes, spine straight. So roll your shoulders back and relax them. You should feel like your spine is basically just stacked one vertebra on top of the next. Your chin is parallel to the ground. Your hands are upturned to the hips.